days ago, but it's in full swing now.
Yeah.
College football is here. Everybody's pretty excited. We're going to have a little tailgating, a little football competition.
We did, and if, the last segment, if you saw that stuff on the Fox Square, it was so cool. I thought it was a bouncy house, though. You're supposed to throw a football through there, and I was like, oh, can I jump in the bouncy house?
Have you thrown a football?
Like, yeah, I threw one on this show. Badly, but I did.
Other than this show, have you thrown
no,
a football?
never. This was the first time. Remember, I threw it for the first time?
I do remember that.
And you said I didn't do badly, but I think you were lying.
I was lying.
Yeah, I know. Now you can tell me that you know me well enough.
For a first time, it was good. How about that?
I did win the hockey trophy, though, so...
I saw a trophy when I came back, and it had your name on it.
Wait, could this be a contest today?
Yeah, I heard it might officially be a contest.
Really?
I'm warming up. I got to see if I'm ready.
He was out there practicing. Just like I just saw Jason Chaffetz in the green room. We're doing a quiz show later on about football movies. He's watching football movies right now so that he can give you the answers in that quiz.
I got to phone a friend.
Which doesn't seem fair.
But you got the answers to the drawing competition yesterday. You had a book there, and poor Jen didn't have anything.
I didn't have a book, and you know, I drew something that looked like a chicken, my mom
Little.
said.
It looked like Chicken
as
Little.
a result of you having the assistance of the book. So let's not even talk about fair.
It actually looked like Teddy Roosevelt Potato Head to me.
Yeah.
I always liked open book tests.
That's good, actually.
All right, but we've got some serious news breaking overnight. The president actually revealing this himself, going on Twitter late last night to say that there were supposed to be secret talks at Camp David near Washington this weekend with the Taliban, the Afghan president, and the president of the United States, but it's all coming apart.
That's right. At 6:51 last night, I saw the tweet come in on my phone. He tweeted a series of 3 tweets saying this: unbeknownst to almost everyone, the major Taliban leaders and separately the president of Afghanistan were going to secretly meet with me at Camp David on Sunday. They were coming to the United States tonight. Unfortunately, in order to build false leverage, they admitted to an attack in Kabul that killed one of our great soldiers and 11 other people. He went on to say this.
He went on to say, I immediately canceled the meeting and called off peace negotiations. What kind of people would kill so many in order to seemingly strengthen their bargaining position? They didn't. They only made it worse. And he continued, if they cannot agree to a ceasefire during these very important peace talks and would even kill 12 innocent people, then they probably don't have the power to negotiate a meaningful agreement anyway. How many more decades are they willing to fight?
One of the questions you have to wonder is, did the president genuinely believe it was time to blow up the talks, or was he looking for a reason to blow up the talks? Because he's been getting flack for the idea of sitting down with the Taliban, number one. And number two, I think clearly from Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and others, he's been getting advice saying, you know, this might have been a good idea to try something different at the beginning, but it's developed into something else where we still cannot trust the Taliban as a reliable partner. Someone who knows a lot about this is Daniel Hoffman, Fox News contributor, former CIA station chief. Here's how he put it.
I think the president made the right decision. It's absolutely right for him and the administration to question whether the Taliban negotiators in Doha in Qatar have the will or the capacity to influence the Taliban and their growing militant attacks on the government in Kabul and coalition forces. While we're not going to fix Afghanistan's failed state petri dish, we kind of need to be there in some form or fashion to ensure that the threats that are there, Al-Qaeda among them and ISIS, don't present ongoing threats to our national security. The president asked the question in his last tweet, how many more decades are they willing to fight? I'll answer that question. Forever. These Islamists have a view of the world which includes killing all of us if they have the power. What's the big difference between ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and the Taliban? Very, very little. Eventually, they have global ambitions to hit us, but first they want to establish their own caliphate where women are covered in burqas, and they have complete control based on their distorted view of the world. And right now, they're killing Americans, they're killing Afghans, they won't even sit down with the Afghan government, they won't guarantee they won't fight the Afghan government, and we're supposed to cut a peace deal with them? No peace is better than a bad peace, and so you can keep a counterterrorism force with fewer troops, because we don't want a nation build forever, without cutting a deal that leads to ISIS 2.0, which is what you would get here. The Taliban will come back. I was there in 2011, 2012. We were already seeing it in the intelligence then. They're waiting us out. The famous quote is, the Americans have the watches, but we have the time. We will wait you out until you're gone. And if you cut a bad deal, it will live with you forever. And that's why Mike Pompeo wouldn't sign off on this, and it was great what the president did.
Then the question becomes, though, how many troops can you cut safely? Because I think he's in a position where many Americans are saying, do we need our troops there? Do we need to actively be present there at this time? So he wants some aspect of a withdrawal, because that was a campaign promise. He came out of the gate and he appealed to a lot of libertarians, you remember, when he was campaigning, because he was saying, we don't want a nation built all over the world. I do want to withdraw troops. So he has that going into 2020 that he has to balance with, how do I do this, but at the same time don't want to lose the ground that we've gained and don't want to threaten the American lives that are there.
And also, for a president who criticized Barack Obama for telegraphing what you're going to do, you got to be very careful about handing the Taliban a victory here by saying, hey, we're getting out. As you say, they're waiting, and then they want to take over, and you have a safe haven for terrorists again, perhaps, which led to 9/11, and all of this, of course, happening, that's the context, on the eve of the 9/11 anniversary. So that's what the president's focused on in terms of the world stage, national security. Back here at home, he's focused, as he always has been, on the economy. That has been something that he has talked about from day one. You mentioned the campaign. Going all the way back to the campaign, he has been pushing the idea that he is going to be out there for the forgotten man, the forgotten woman. That's what animated and brought the energy and enthusiasm to his 2016
He brought
campaign.
the magic wand.
And then Barack Obama said there's no magic wand to bring back the manufacturing jobs. This president believes he's done that.
Yeah, let's check out President Trump on the economy. Is that a tweet or a thought? It says thought.
Incredible what's happening. Our economy is strong. Our country is great. We've never been in a better position. More people are working today in the United States than at any time in the history of our country. Almost 160 million people. So, to all fellow American citizens, I say one simple word: congratulations.
So if the president does not tout the economy, almost nobody else will. So this is a video he released on Twitter talking about, you hear all this recession talk, ultimately we're in a great place.
Yeah,
which is great for America.
I don't even think he has to be honest. I understand why he does it, because so many in the media are saying recession, recession, and they won't actually report the news of actually what's happening with the economy. But he doesn't even have to say anything, because, remember, people feel that stuff. They feel it in their wallets. They feel it in how much money they have at the end of the day. They feel it in whether or not their businesses are thriving or being burdened by overregulation. So all of that stuff comes into play on a daily basis for these people and impacts their votes, whether or not the president makes a statement about it or not.
Absolutely. And the president's been pushing back on some in the media who have suggested, look, maybe a recession is coming. He thinks that's pessimism. He wants to focus on optimism. Editorial this morning in the New York Post jumping on that very point, saying, quote, this economy can best be summed up by a classic childhood fairy tale, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. The growth is exactly the way the Goldilocks prefers her porridge. Not too hot, not too cold, but just right. That's part of what the president's been doing with his pressure on the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, which is, you know, don't take away that porridge. Make sure everybody's a little bit happy. You know, don't be so slow on cutting the interest rates that you drag this economy down.
Yeah, no one wants a bubble here, but we certainly don't want a wet blanket, and that's what he's talking about. Well, somebody who's not a wet blanket, never been described as such. A new colleague of ours, Fox News contributor Sarah Sanders, was on our channel on Justice last night talking about what the left really wants with our president. Watch.
I hope I never become like the Democrats are right now, that they would rather our president fail and America not continue to grow, continue to be successful, so that they could change who is in power. That is a terrible way to look at this country. I think the president has done a tremendous job, and he's not just growing the economy for one sector. He's growing it for all Americans.
Everyone.
Women are doing better. African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans. Everybody is doing better under the Trump economy, and it's time for us to start celebrating the fact that America is winning.
You know, I agree with her. The one thing I would take issue with is, remember Rush Limbaugh wrote an op-ed for the USA Today when Barack Obama was elected. They asked for submissions from prominent people. They said, what do you hope from the Obama presidency? He said, I hope he fails. That was his whole op-ed. It was like, I hope he fails. So 4 words. I actually, if the other side is going to bring socialism to our country, I hope that fails too. But ultimately, if people are prospering and jobs are plentiful and wages are going up, we should all be cheering for that, unless you have this dystopian view that everything is evil that's being done, which is what how the left sees sees Trump today, and then you're wishing for his failure.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we're going to turn to some headlines for you now.
Ed, you held your tongue nicely.
At least 2 people are dead and 3 others injured after a...
For Serena Williams, history was going to be made. She was going to have a record number of majors, Grand Slam titles, as well as a record number of U.S. Open titles. wasn't happening. This 19-year-old stunned her, stunned the crowd. It was remarkable to watch. That was obviously, by the way, Shannon Bream has that special tonight. Make sure you watch it. And that was Martha interviewing Justice Gorsuch. And she's going to have him on The Story Monday night, so don't miss that as well.
Very cool.
Meanwhile, NFL quarterback Drew Brees.
I live by two very simple Christian fundamentals, and that is love the Lord with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. So the fact that these rumors have been spread about me are completely untrue. What I did was I filmed a video recently that was encouraging kids to bring their Bibles to school for National Bring Your Bible to School Day.
That's NFL quarterback Drew Brees responding to critics after promoting Bring Your Bible to School Day, which is October 3rd, by the way, a special day that is sponsored by the Christian group Focus on the Family. Now that group is pushing back, saying they will not be silenced. Here with more is president of Focus on the Family, Jim Daly. Jim, thank you very much for joining our program this morning. So Drew Brees steps out in support of Bring Your Bible to School Day, and the backlash is overwhelming. Why?
Well, I think there's a small segment of the society who doesn't want the Christian community to express our values. And I'm so proud of Drew Brees for doing this. And this is something that we've done for the last 4 years. We have about 650,000 kids last year that participated in Bring Your Bible to School. And it's a great way for young people to learn how to express their faith in a country that allows them the freedom to do so.
Absolutely, Jim. But Drew took incoming big time from all sides, basically attaching him to different views, Focus on the Family may have, and putting him on his heels. Have you talked to Drew? What's been his reaction? We've seen things publicly. Obviously, he still supports Bring Your Bible to School Day. Just your reaction to that.
Yeah, we haven't talked directly, but again, I so appreciate his point that, I agree with him that Christians, there's two commandments that Jesus gave us. Love your neighbor as yourself and love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, and mind. And we believe in that too. And we don't hate anybody. We do have a different idea, a biblical idea of what the definition of marriage is. And we're going to continue to believe that. We can't edit the book. We're followers of the book. And we know that we live in a pluralistic society. I think Drew Brees, unfortunately, is taking heat for something that he should not take heat for, and that's to live out his convictions and his faith. And that's a problem. If we can't, in this culture, if we can't speak to each other about what we believe, and every time you do, if you're castigated as a hate group or an anti-group, that makes dialogue very difficult.
Well, it also means there's no real tolerance in a free society where different views are going to exist. Now, here's some of the headlines that Drew Brees faced. Newsweek says Drew Brees, New Orleans Saints quarterback, records video produced by anti-gay group Focus on the Family. Yahoo, Drew Brees needs to apologize. New York Daily News, Drew Brees is the biggest hypocrite in sports. So, think about a guy like this. He steps out for his faith, for Bring Your Bible to School Day, probably not anticipating any of this. But this is all instigated by left-wing groups who ultimately hate what you stand for and want to create this divide.
Exactly right. They want to caricature us and Drew Brees in this case as something evil, something dark, something horrible. And it's just simply not true. We love all people. We do. God commands us to do that, and yet we still have principles that we need to live by. And that is the friction point. They want everyone to succumb to their idea, their worldview of what it means to be married. And I'm telling you, for 2,000 years we have followed the teachings of Christ, and we're going to continue to do so. And I'm just saying it would be nice to be able to pull together, have discussion. This is a pluralistic culture. They have won that battle. Now it's, can they serve at the table and allow others to have a different opinion?
Well, yeah, we can have different views on marriage, but ultimately we live in a free society where you should be able to have those differing views and debate it. And ultimately, we see what comes of it. Jim Daly, thank you for starting Bring Your Bible to School Day, October 3rd. I think it's an important reminder to so many people in our government public schools that have ripped the Bible out. We do have still that freedom of religion and freedom of speech to do just this. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate your time.
Well, I appreciate it.
You got it. All right, well, is this another case of Trump derangement syndrome? A New York Times columnist blaming her years-long insomnia on President Trump winning in 2016. Michael Knowles says this just shows, well, the left has learned nothing. He's on deck.
All right. right, time now for your news by the numbers. First 24. That's how many illegal immigrants were arrested over a 3-day period at a New Hampshire checkpoint. The Border Patrol says the immigrants came from 7 different countries, and 7 of them had been deported before. Get that. Next, 27 years. That's how long it took police to solve a missing persons case. Get this. After a teenager discovers a sunken car in a lake. Canadian authorities uncovering the body of 69-year-old Janet Ferris, reported missing in 1992. And $500. That's the reward a 9/11 widow is offering for the return of her stolen wedding rings. Monica Eichen's ring and 2 of her late husband's wedding bands, oh boy, taken from a New York home she stayed in last month. They were even blessed by the Pope at Ground Zero in 2015. We certainly hope she gets all that back.
Yeah. Well, a New York Times columnist revealing she hasn't been able to sleep since President Trump won the election.
Well, that's a long time. Oof. In an op-ed, Michelle Goldberg claims his confidence will not be enough to lessen the insomnia that has plagued me since the cursed night when Trump was elected.
Michael Knowles, host of Yes, the Michael Knowles Show. He joins us now live to weigh in. What is going on with the left? They can't sleep now?
You know what I think the column shows us, first of all, is that this woman needs psychiatric help. If you cannot sleep for 3 years because a guy that you don't like won an election, seek medical attention. But what the column shows us, second of all, is the left has learned nothing, not one lesson since 2016. They are predicting the imminent demise of the GOP in this column based on a book written by, wait for it, one of Hillary Clinton's 2016 pollsters, because apparently Walter Mondale's pollsters were not available, maybe George McGovern's either. And what it shows more importantly, too, the left is doubling down on their contempt of their fellow countrymen. Goldberg in this op-ed refers to the GOP as a foul agglomeration of bigotry and avarice that has turned American politics into a dystopian farce. That's quite a way to think of half of your fellow countrymen. Calling half the country deplorable and irredeemable didn't work in 2016. I don't think it's going to work any better in 2020.
You know, Michael, when Trump got elected, I remember companies were offering counseling, internal counseling, and people were people were having complete meltdowns about their health and entering therapy. So what's going to happen if he wins again?
Well, I think we're going to need to change the DSM, the psychiatry handbook. We're taking many disorders out of that handbook. I think we need to put Trump derangement syndrome into that handbook. And we know that the New York Times is going to keep this up. Dean Baquet, the executive editor, said a few weeks ago that now that the Russia collusion hoax is out, which was the New York Times' main story, they're now going to double down on Trump being a terrible racial bigot and presumably his supporters being terrible bigots also. It just seems that the derangement gets worse and worse.
You know, Michael Knowles, you wrote the famously insightful book, Reasons to Vote for Democrats. I mean, it was the best page-turner I've ever read.
I went through it. I didn't find a lot of stuff.
No, it was amazing. I mean, it gave every reason possible to vote for Democrats. If you were to rewrite maybe 2.0, which I would suggest you do, it put a lot of work into it, how would you address Trump derangement syndrome?
Well, I would need to add several new chapters. The original book, Reasons to Vote for Democrats, A Comprehensive Guide, consists of 250 blank pages. I think now we're going to have to expand it in a special edition to 500 for the 2020 race.
The time is now, Michael. Seize the day. No better time than now.
Amazing. By the way, that's an amazing idea. I give you so much credit for that. That is a gift that everyone wants to get in their stocking for Christmas. It's pretty fabulous. How did you come up with that?
Well, it's not the newest joke in the book. There's one called Everything Men Know About Women. There's one called The Wit and Wisdom of Spiro Agnew. There have been a few before, but this is the one for now. And President Trump, by the way, did endorse it as a great book for your reading enjoyment. So, you know, you've got his expertise as well.
Michael, real quick, what are your thoughts on Joe Biden right now? Let's just talk about the Democrats. Get your thoughts.
Well, unfortunately, Joe Biden seems to be declining day by day, and I'm not only speaking about his mental faculties, I'm talking about his polling numbers as well. He's trying to run this race against himself, and as you can see in the New York Times, the moderates are not doing very well here. The Democratic Party is running radically to the left. It's not going to serve him or them well.
Oh, absolutely. Michael Knowles' book that was blank sold way more than mine, which had a lot of writing in it. Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good to see y'all.
The Trump administration unveiling a new plan to revamp the housing market, but 2020 hopeful Elizabeth Warren is calling it shameful.
Really? Well, what does the Housing and Urban Development Secretary, Dr. Ben Carson, think about it? He authored it. He's going to give us the details first. That is live next.
But there are still some loose ends to be tied up.
The Trump administration revealing a plan to revamp the housing market by privatizing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, two companies that back half of the nation's mortgages.
Joining us now live with more on this proposal is the man himself, the Housing and Urban Development Secretary, Dr. Ben Carson. Good morning, Secretary Carson.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
It's great to have you back. This Sunday morning, you already have some Democrats attacking your plan and saying this is going to widen the gap between home ownership among whites and blacks in America. What is your case for why this is the right plan right now?
Well, you know, there's an old saying, the time to repair a leak in the roof is when the sun is shining. You know, don't wait until there's a storm. And right now, economically, the sun is shining on us. And we recognize that, you know, the GSEs, government entities like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have been in conservatorship for the last 11 years, placing taxpayers at risk. So this is an opportunity to really change that dynamic while at the same time refocusing the mission of FHA and Ginnie Mae.
Well, sir, you're certainly right, pardon me, that this was a huge problem for taxpayers with the bubble and the housing crisis. Taxpayers were on the hook. Can you give us one or two pieces of the plan from the president and yourself that you think will make it better?
I can give you a lot more than one or two, but one of the key things that we're doing is separating or proposing that we separate out the functions of the FHA from just the financial functions that are really aimed at making sure that we can maintain the 30-year mortgage and the financial viability of the situation with the rental assistance programs. Right now, the FHA commissioner is responsible for all of those things and really cannot focus individually on them. Also, at the same time, making sure that we give FHA and Ginnie Mae the tools that are necessary to be able to manage risk. Right now we have sort of a one-size-fits-all model. That's not appropriate to be able to be flexible.
Secretary Carlson, Elizabeth Warren, who has been rising in the polls, has completely slammed this housing market plan, saying the following: in the middle of a housing affordability crisis, when the gap between the black and white home ownership rates is as big as it was when housing discrimination was legal, the Trump administration wants to make it harder for credit-worthy working families, especially families of color, to buy a home and build wealth. That's shameful. What do you make of her slamming this?
Well, I say, you know, smart people learn from things that have not worked out in the past. And as you remember, more than a decade ago, there was this big brouhaha about, you know, the wealth gap, the housing gap, and that everybody should own a home. And there was a lot of manipulation, credit manipulations that were inappropriate, so that people lost not only their home, but they lost their credit and their future possibilities. A lot of the African American community were victimized by this. And, you know, we're looking at ways that we can get them back in homes, but learn from those things and not repeat the same kinds of mistakes.
Mr. Secretary, for average folks, in layman's terms, how do these changes affect their engagement with the housing market?
Well, we're talking with the servicers, with the people who actually make the loans versus the people who provide the insurance for the loans and mortgage-backed securities. And in terms of the way that they service people, in terms of what they look at before they foreclose on an individual. We have something we call a waterfall of options. We're requiring people to go through all those things and not just go straight to foreclosure. And those are the kinds of things that I think will improve the quality of people's lives. Part of the American dream is home ownership, and that's what we're looking to: affordable housing. You know, the president signed a executive order creating the council to remove the barriers and examine the barriers for affordable housing. That makes a big difference. Opportunity zones, utilizing the cash that people have realized over the course of the last couple of years, to put those into places that have been neglected economically for a long period of time, to give those people an opportunity to be part of this flourishing economy.
Well, we know you've been working very hard on these big issues, so we appreciate you taking some time out of your weekend with your family in order to be with us and our viewers. Thanks for coming in, Dr. Carson.
Thank you for your time.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We're going to turn to some headlines for you now. Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch opening up the High Court. Earlier, we played a clip from a previous interview with Martha McCallum. Here's a clip from Shannon Bream's wide-ranging interview as Justice Gorsuch explains his only rules for his law clerks.
Rule number 1, don't make it up. Follow the law. Rule number 2, when everybody else around you is yelling at you, asking you to make it up, or condemning you for not making it up, refer to rule number 1.
The full interview with Justice Gorsuch airs tonight at 8 and again at 11 on Fox News. And thousands of demonstrators take to the streets in Hong Kong once again, now urging President Trump to liberate their city. For months, they've been hitting the streets, calling for more democratic freedom, even after the government agreed to withdraw a controversial extradition bill. The protesters have since widened their demands and say they won't stop until they're all met.
Good for them. Keep going.
Yeah. A new documentary revealing the panic before the water crisis in Flint, Michigan.
Tell them, do not drink the water. He said it's not safe. We're not ready. He said, and people are going to die.
That's the sister of the former Flint water plant foreman who warned of the water's danger before the city reactivated the decades-old plant. The tainted water poisoned thousands of children with lead and killed at least 12 people. And Twitter is going nuts over this picture of a man standing on a plane as his wife slept. Courtney Lee Johnson shared the pic with the caption, "This guy stood up the whole 6 hours so his wife could sleep. Now that is love." Some commenters don't find the man's act so noble, with one tweeting, quote, "If that is love, I would rather be lonely." Oh, man, people really get heated about
you're
stuff
newly
like
married.
this. Yeah, what do you think?
6 hours?
That is love. I agree.
That's something.
That's something.
6 hours.
It didn't sound like you gave us a yes or a no.
No, I mean, what about these I sit down, you sleep on my lap thing? Like, I'm your pillow. I feel like I do that a lot. That would be a better option than standing.
Yeah.
It's like a My Pillow on the go.
Yeah, my pillow.
Yeah. Maybe she doesn't think you're that good of a pillow. No, I'm just
That's
a whole other topic.
Rick, I wonder what you think about this.
Well, I'm going to ask these guys, would you stand for 6 hours so that she could sleep?
Definitely.
You're only saying this because you're on TV. Would he do that?
Probably not. I would be on his lap.
See, we got the truth. Nice try. Nice try. We're not going to let you get away with that. All right, let's talk about the weather out there. Take a look at the map, show you what's going on. It is almost the peak of hurricane season. We are about 2 days away from the statistical peak of hurricane season. We obviously have just dealt with Dorian. Nothing in the immediate that we are watching. There is a little disturbance out there across the Atlantic. And anytime we have a disturbance this time of year, we do worry that they could develop. And that's showing some signs of something. We'll watch it. Plenty of time to watch it. We'll let you know if you need to worry. But what was Dorian is now up across parts of Canada. Came ashore and across Nova Scotia yesterday with 80-mile-an-hour winds. Incredible storm. It's finally gone. And now we've got some big storms moving across the Central Plains right now and some across the Northern Rockies. And we are even going to see some monsoonal moisture moving across parts of the desert Southwest, which has been sorely lacking for much of this summer. Hot. There's Texas, 100 degrees in Dallas. It's hot. That's where these people are. You better be standing so she can sleep. Everybody has proof that you said you would do that.
I know. I am. As soon as we get a seat on the plane.
There you go. All right, guys, back to you.
Thanks, Rick. I like that man.
Shamed into it.
He immediately answered, unlike other people who hem and haw.
And his wife was immediately honest.
Yes. She called him out.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, I hope Jenny Cunningham is watching.
Yeah. Oh, she knows the truth. All right, actress Kirstie Alley calling out Hollywood's hypocrisy for shunning President Trump.
Actress Kirstie Alley calling out those in Hollywood for shunning Trump supporters.
In a tweet, the actress writes this: "I refuse to be part of the Hollywood blank hats who can't see that not working with Republicans is as stupid and nasty as refusing to do business with gay people. Stop acting above the fray, you damn hypocrites. We are the same species. Let's help each other out You damn Yahoo.
Pretty good. Here to weigh in, actor, comedian Joe Piscopo, our friend. Joe, good to see you.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, good to see you. Welcome back, Ed Henry.
I really appreciate it.
We're friends, and gosh, it's great to see all that you've done. God bless you for what you're doing.
Appreciate you having me on the radio show to talk about it. Bottom line is, it seems to me that Kirstie Alley is getting at a serious point here.
Yeah.
Which is that you have folks on the left talking about tolerance, and yet they're intolerant, and they want sort of a modern-day McCarthyism.
Exactly. They're so hypocritical, you know. And she's right. And she was nice in the tweet, guys. She was nice. It was polite. It was nice. Everybody stand down. Everybody's got to relax. I'm so pumped up. Look at me. I still have, if I may, the tuxedo I wore on stage last night. I got called late from you guys. I said, come to Fox and Friends weekend. Get to see Ed. I haven't seen Ed in a while, Pete. You know. So I came in.
Did you shower?
Always a wise guy. It was for a famous New Yorker who does so much for charity, John Catsimatidis.
Yep.
He had his birthday. It was all about how great America is. You know what the centerpiece was? What we did on the tees with a spinning Statue of Liberty.
I saw that downstairs.
That was the centerpiece that Margot did. That's the centerpiece. And then, you know what we did in the middle of my set? I'm doing the Frank Sinatra tunes and everything, and I'm saying, fly me to the moon. And John comes over, sing God Bless America. We sing God Bless America. Everyone to a person stands up immediately, hand over their heart, singing. Because John is an immigrant to this country, worked so hard. And then when you see everybody put it down, oh, the president is this, everybody's got to stand down. And Ed, you came on my radio show, the mantra on, if I may, on AM 970, The Answer, every morning, is just put aside the divide. We are a great country. We are a great people. Everybody's just got to stop criticizing.
But can the left, can Hollywood put the divide aside?
I think they will.
You do. What evidence? I mean, I love the optimism.
Yeah.
But what evidence do you have that will happen?
You know, because I think, and someone else said this, I wish I could take credit for saying this, someone at the table said this, the president will win in a landslide, and then he will be, indeed, the people's president. That's what's going to happen. They're not going to have any choice. It's okay. You guys travel. You go out and you do the remotes. I'm all over the country. When I'm not doing the radio show on the weekend, I go all around this great country. Everybody's optimistic. Everybody's okay. We understand. If you disagree and you want to vote for Joe Biden, vote for Joe Biden. I don't hate you. You know what I mean? And they're criticizing about Donald Trump doing a fundraiser. Remember when Hillary went out for $300,000 a pop? And even George Clooney said, this is crazy.
You know, Joe, what was interesting is that there was a lot of liberal backlash to those tweets by Eric McCormick and Deborah Messing that were so controversial when they were talking about, you know, attendees of Trump fundraisers and Trump donors. So now you're seeing within Hollywood, even liberals are coming out and saying enough is enough. This isn't what we want to do. You don't want to be blacklisting people. So I actually agree with you. I think there's going to be a tide that turns here.
It's McCarthyism. You can't just stop and just go up against a person just for being against them. Oh, well, is that what you believe in? And then, like, you know, I always wear my American flag pin. You know what I mean? And I was at my high school reunion, and some gal walked up to me, you know, and said, "You're old." No, she didn't say that. No, she goes, oh, she points to my pin. She goes, "Oh, you're a Trump supporter." Because I have the pin.
Because I like the flag?
Wow. I said, no. I said, I'm a patriot. I love this country. My grandparents came from Italy. They learned the language. They learned the laws of the United States of America. We're the greatest country on planet Earth. And that's why I wear the pin. Everybody will settle down. Pete, I think to your point, everybody will settle down.
I hope and pray that you're right. I fear you may be wrong. Joe Piscopo, thank you so much.
We're doing a football quiz.
Ed, I'm so bad at quizzes, but I'll do whatever you want.
We want to see it. We won't embarrass you.
Yeah, coming up, do you...
Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started.